Do you ever get to the end of the day and think, what on earth have I actually done today? You were busy. You were definitely busy. You answered messages. You looked at your phone about 47 times. You probably watched a few videos you had absolutely no intention of watching when you woke up this morning. You maybe rushed around doing bits and pieces, work, chores, emails, little jobs. And yet somehow, the things you actually wanted to do, the things that would have made the day feel like a good one, didn't really happen. You didn't exercise. You didn't read. You didn't work on that thing you keep saying matters to you. You didn't eat that well either, because by the time you got hungry, tired, and a bit fed up, I'll just order something. And now the day's gone. Again. Let me ask you something honestly. How many days do you have like that? And if you keep living days that way, what will your life look like in 5 to 10 years? Because as I've got older, I've realized we don't waste our lives dramatically. We waste it quietly, one unplanned day at a time. Hi, I'm John. I'm a husband and a dad of 2 young boys, and I spend a lot of time thinking about what their lives might look like when they get to my age. How they can have a better life than me. How they can be happy, healthy, secure, content. So, how do you build a life that feels more under control? How do you avoid drifting? How do you stop getting to the end of the week feeling like you've been busy, but not really moving forward? I've certainly not mastered this, by the way. Far from it. I still have days where I waste too much time, get distracted, eat badly, stay up too late, and then act surprised the next day when I feel tired and a bit annoyed at myself. Funny that. But what I've learned, one thing makes a massive difference. Planning your day. Not in some intense, military, color-coded spreadsheet sort of way. Not becoming one of those people who schedules when to breathe. I just mean thinking ahead. Giving your day some shape, so it doesn't just drift past you. When I was younger, I didn't really think much about planning. And to be honest, when you're younger, you can get away with that a bit more. Usually, you've got fewer pressures on your time. Less responsibility. Less people needing things from you. Less mental load. You might not have children. You might not have a demanding job. You might not have a house to manage, bills to think about, relationships to maintain, or 16 different little life admin things floating around in your head all at once. So if you waste a day in your 20s, it doesn't always feel like a big deal. But later on, it starts to matter more. Because when you get older, and life gets fuller and louder and more demanding, if you don't know how to guide your day will get taken from you. By work, by your phone, by other people's priorities, by convenience, by tiredness, by randomness. And before you know it, the whole week's gone. That's why I think building this habit early matters so much. Because if you can learn to plan your day when life is simpler, you'll be in a much stronger position when life gets more complicated. And believe me, for most of us, it does get more complicated. In good ways often. Family, children, more responsibility, more purpose. But also, less margin for error. So the earlier you learn to think ahead, the better. And when I say plan your day, I don't just mean work. That's important, obviously, but I mean your whole day, your actual life. Because one mistake a lot of people make is treating the day as though only work counts. So they might vaguely know what they're doing from 9 to 5, but outside of that, it's a free-for-all. And that's where the important parts of life often quietly fall apart. Your exercise, your meals, your sleep, your reading, your learning, your tidiness, your time with people, your peace of mind. All the stuff that keeps life feeling decent. I found that if I don't think ahead about when I'm going to exercise, it often just doesn't happen. Not because I don't care about it, not because I don't know it matters, but because the day fills up. Something runs late. I get tired. Something else becomes easier. And next thing I know, I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow becomes tomorrow's tomorrow. and then suddenly you've done absolutely nothing for 2 weeks apart from walk to the fridge. So now I think it's important to decide in advance. Not just, I should exercise tomorrow, but when? Before work? At lunch? Straight after work? A walk in the evening? 10 minutes of stretching in the living room? Because your body does not care about your good intentions, only what you actually do. Same with food. This is a big one. If you don't think about what you're going to eat ahead of time, you will often react in the moment. And reacting in the moment when you're tired and hungry is not usually where your finest decisions come from. That is where "I'll just have something quick" lives. That is where "I'll just order a Just Eat" lives. That is where "I'll start eating better on Monday" lives. And somehow, Monday never seems to arrive. I'm not saying every meal needs to be perfect. I'm definitely not saying you can never have a takeaway. That would be a miserable life. But if you've thought about your meals for the next day, even roughly, you're far more likely to eat better. Even something simple like knowing breakfast will be this, lunch will be that, dinner is already decided. That alone reduces chaos. And chaos, I've found, is where a lot of bad habits sneak in. Another thing that helps more than people realize is planning the small habits that make life feel ordered. Things that sound boring, but really do matter. Tidying up. Keeping your room or your kitchen reasonably clean. Putting things back where they belong. Not leaving every surface in the house covered in random nonsense. I say this as someone who has absolutely been guilty of doing exactly that. But honestly, your environment affects you. When your space is messy, your mind often feels messier as well. You feel behind. You feel disorganized. You feel like life is slightly slipping. So sometimes planning your day might include something as simple as 10 minutes tidying the room, 5 minutes clearing the kitchen, sorting your clothes out for tomorrow. These things aren't glamorous, but they make life feel more stable, and stable is underrated. Another one I really believe in: plan your bedtime. Now I know that doesn't sound exciting. No young man is sitting there thinking, finally, a thrilling conversation about bedtime. But honestly, it matters a lot. Because your plan for tomorrow is much more likely to fail if you are tired before it even starts. And I've found this in my own life over and over again. When I stay up too late doing pointless things, scrolling, watching rubbish, drifting about, the next day is harder. I wake up later. I'm more sluggish. I'm less patient. I'm more likely to skip exercise, more likely to eat badly, more likely to think, not today. And all of that started the night before. So if you want tomorrow to go better, part of that is deciding when the day ends, not just when it begins. And for me, the best time to plan the day is the night before. Not in some huge, complicated way. Just a few minutes, that's it. What needs to happen tomorrow? What would make tomorrow feel like a decent day? When am I going to exercise? What am I going to eat? What time am I going to bed tonight? What one or two things would move my life forward if I actually did them? That little bit of thinking changes everything, because then when you wake up, you're not starting from confusion. You've already had the conversation with yourself, and that means you're less likely to get hijacked by social media, distractions, random nonsense, and whatever shiny thing your brain decides is suddenly urgent. And I do think it helps to put an actual time against things when you can, even loosely, because "I'll do it at some point" is one of the great lies we tell ourselves. At some point usually means never. So instead of saying, "I'll read tomorrow," say, "I'll read for 15 minutes at 8:30. Instead of, "I'll exercise tomorrow," say, "I'll go for a walk at 6. Instead of, "I need to sort my finances out," say, "I'll spend 20 minutes tomorrow evening checking my spending or moving money into savings." Now it becomes real. And once something has a time, it is much harder for nonsense to steal it. And this isn't just about being productive either. It's also about feeling better. Because one thing I've noticed is that a day feels very different when it contains even a small sense of progress. Even something tiny. 10 minutes on the guitar, 20 minutes learning a language, reading a few pages of a book, watching a tutorial on something useful, learning how to cook one decent meal, practicing a bit of drawing, learning a bit about money, doing a short online course, fixing something in the house you've been ignoring for weeks. These things do something to you. They remind you that your life is moving, that you're not just consuming the day, you're using it. And that gives you a sense of accomplishment that endless scrolling simply does not. No matter how many life-changing productivity clips you watch while lying horizontally eating biscuits. Now, this is important. Your day doesn't have to be rigid. It doesn't have to be written down. It doesn't have to be perfect. You do not need to become a robot. Sometimes the plan will change. Life happens. Children happen. Work runs over. You get tired. Something unexpected comes up. That's normal. The point isn't to control every minute. The point is to stop drifting. To stop handing the day away by default. Even if your plan lives only in your head, if you have at least thought it through, the day is already more intentional than it would have been otherwise. And intentional days build better lives. If this is hitting a bit close to home, and you know you need to get a better grip on your days, just take a second to like the video. I genuinely appreciate it. And if you're trying to build a better life for yourself, one day at a time, subscribe. We're figuring this out together. The other reason this matters to me so much is because of my boys. I think a lot about what habits become normal for them, what sort of man they might become, and what kind of life they'll build. Because they're growing up in a world that is unbelievably good at stealing attention. Everything wants a piece of your day now. Your phone, apps, videos, messages, ads, entertainment, noise. And if you are not careful, you can lose hours without even noticing. Which is slightly terrifying when you really think about it. So one thing I really want them to understand early is that a good life is not usually destroyed in one big dramatic way. It more often slips away in unplanned days. Days where you meant to do the right things, but didn't. Days where you let comfort win. Days where you reacted instead of deciding. Days where nothing terrible happened, but nothing useful did either. And those days add up. What I want my boys to take away from this, more than anything, is that planning your day is not about pressure. It's about protection. You are protecting your time, protecting your health, protecting your future, protecting your relationships, protecting your peace of mind. Because when you plan your day with even a little bit of care, you make it far more likely that the things you say matter actually happen. Exercise gets done. Meals improve. Money gets managed. Learning happens. The house stays more ordered. You sleep better. You feel less behind. You become someone who follows through more often. Not perfectly, but more often. And that changes a life. So boys, if you ever watch this one day, this is what I'd want you to remember. You do not need to have every minute of your life planned out. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need some impossible system. But think ahead. Respect your day, because your day is your life in miniature. How you spend your day, again and again and again, is how your life will slowly turn out. If you keep letting your days drift, your life will drift. If you keep using your days well, even imperfectly, your life will get stronger. So make a plan the night before. Think about what matters. Give your day some shape. Make room for movement. Make room for decent food. Make room for learning. Make room for rest. Make room for the things that future you will be grateful for. Because one day, you will be my age. And when you get there, I don't want you feeling like life just happened to you. I want you to feel like you helped build it. One decent day at a time. And trust me, that is a much better place to be.